Ever feel like you're just kind of going through the motions, like you're on autopilot, but missing that like spark of excitement?
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you mean. It's like we're trying to run our engines on fumes instead of, figuring out what fuel we actually need.
And that is a perfect way to bring us to this deep dive, 9 ways to understand what motivates us by Karita Nyberg. We're really going to dig into this idea of 9 universal psychological needs that are, as Nyberg argues, really the driving forces behind everything we do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not about willpower. It's like she says it's about wiring. So these needs really influence everything we do right. Like how satisfied we are, how we behave at work, how we are in our relationships.
So less about those self-help pep talks and more about like a fundamental understanding of what makes us tick.
Exactly. When we understand those core motivators, that's when we can actually make choices that align with who we are.
Okay, I am so ready for this. Let's dive in. What's the first motivator we're going to unpack?
All right, so first up we have exchange. Think about those people you know who are just information junkies. Like they're constantly sending you articles, dissecting documentaries, and they always up for a good debate.
Oh my gosh, I know exactly the type. I actually work with someone like that. Their desk is seriously overflowing with books and journals. They just soak up knowledge like a sponge.
Exactly, and that thirst for knowledge,
Hmm.
for sharing ideas, for those really engaging conversations, that's exchange in action. They don't want to just scratch the surface. They want to dive deep into the things they're passionate about.
So it's not just about being chatty, it's about that pursuit of knowledge and understanding.
Exactly. Now let's shift gears a little to security. So if our exchange friends are all about new information, these folks find comfort and predictability in routine.
So those color-coded calendars and super organized to-do lists, those aren't just signs of being high maintenance. That's the security motivator coming through.
Right. It's not about being rigid. It's about the feeling of calm and control that comes from having that predictable structure in their lives.
This is already making so much sense. Okay, so what's up next in our lineup of motivators?
Let's talk about adventure. These are the people who get a thrill out of new experiences, out of spontaneity,
Right.
a little bit of risk-taking even.
Oh, my partner is all adventure. If I even mention a last-minute road trip, they're already packing the car. Meanwhile, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the logistics.
And that's a perfect example of how these different motivators can show up in our relationships, right? But what's interesting is that for people with that strong adventure drive, it's often more than just seeking thrills. It can be this deep need for novelty, this aversion to routine or, feeling stagnant.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. It's not just about being impulsive, it's about needing that constant stimulation, those new challenges. Okay, hit me with the next one. I'm ready.
Okay, let's move on to influence. Now, these are your natural born leaders. They're driven to make an impact, to leave their mark on the world.
So, not necessarily just about being the boss, but about having a voice and making a real difference.
Exactly. Think about the people you know who gravitate towards leadership roles. It's often not even about power for them. It's this inherent desire to shape things, to inspire others, to make real change.
I'm starting to see how these motivators aren't just personal. They really do influence how we interact with everything around us. Okay, so what's next?
Let's talk about expression. These are our creatives, right? The artists, the writers, the musicians. They thrive on originality and expressing themselves in their own unique ways.
So, more than just being artsy, it's that deep need to create, to share their perspective with the world.
Yes. It's about bringing something new into the world that reflects them, whether that's through painting or music or writing or even just, having this knack for creating beauty in their everyday life.
Okay, so that's 5 down, 4 to go. What other hidden motivators are we about to unlock? All right, so we're halfway through uncovering these hidden motivators. What's next on our list?
Let's talk about freedom. This one's all about autonomy.
Yeah.
That ability to really chart your own course.
So those friends who are always off on solo adventures or embracing that freelance life, they're probably driven by a high need for freedom, right?
Totally. They need that flexibility to make their own choices, set their own schedules, pursue their own interests without feeling constrained by rules or expectations.
Which makes total sense. It's not about being against structure altogether. It's about that autonomy to create a life that feels right for them.
Exactly. And, it brings up a good point about all these motivators.
Mhm.
We don't want to get caught up in labeling ourselves or others right. It's about understanding the why behind our preferences and our behaviors.
Okay, I love that. So what's next? This is like unlocking this whole new level of understanding about people.
Up next, we have expansion. These are the big picture thinkers, the ones who are always striving for growth and expansion in all areas of life.
So we're not just talking about career ambitions here, it's broader than that, like a thirst for knowledge, personal development, pushing their boundaries.
You got it. Think about the person who's always signing up for that new course or immersing themselves in different cultures or taking on these ambitious projects. It's that drive to learn, to evolve, to expand their horizons.
That's so interesting. It's like they see endless possibilities and they just want to experience as much as they can. Okay, so we're down to our final two motivators. What's next?
Let's talk about recognition. These are the people who are energized by appreciation, positive feedback, that feeling of connection with others.
Okay, so we're talking about the folks who are always going above and beyond for their team, remembering everyone's birthdays, making sure everyone feels seen and appreciated.
Precisely. They need to feel valued for their contributions,
Mm.
and they often create these positive, supportive environments for the people around them.
I bet this motivator shows up in a big way in workplaces and relationships too.
Absolutely. Understanding the recognition motivator can be so important in those areas. It's realizing that for some people, a genuine thank you or that expression of appreciation can be incredibly motivating.
Okay, we are down to our final motivator. What's the last piece of the puzzle?
Last but not least, we have communion. Now, these are your social butterflies, right?
Mm.
The ones who are energized by connecting with others, building relationships.
So, more than just being extroverted, though, right? It's that genuine desire to interact, to share experiences, to build those social bonds.
Exactly. Imagine the person who can walk into a room full of strangers and just strike up a conversation like it's nothing. They're not just being outgoing. They're fulfilling that need for connection, for belonging.
That makes me think about how these motivators aren't just these abstract concepts. They show up in our everyday lives, even in simple things like how we approach a social gathering.
That's such a great point, and it really gets at the heart of what we're talking about. Once you understand these motivators, it's like you've unlocked this code for understanding human behavior.
It's like having X-ray vision into what makes people tick.
Right. And just imagine how much more fulfilling our lives could be if we approached everything with a deeper understanding of these motivators in ourselves and the people around us.
Okay, I am officially mind blown. But we have covered so much ground. Where do we even begin to make sense of all this? And how do we actually use it in our lives? So we've explored these 9 motivators from exchange all the way to communion. And I gotta say, I am already seeing things a little differently.
It really is like getting a whole new lens for looking at ourselves and the people around us, right?
Absolutely. But now I'm kind of like, okay, we have all this information. Where do we even go from here? Like, how do we actually put this into action?
Well, I think it starts with a little self-reflection. Think back on all those different motivators we talked about. Which ones were like, oh my gosh, that saw me?
You know, for me, it was definitely security and expression. Like, I'm realizing my love for planning and organization, that's not just me being controlling, it's that deep need for security and that creative outlet I get from writing. Total expression motivator right there.
Perfect example. It's not about judging those needs as good or bad. It's about understanding how they impact our choices. Now imagine applying that same thinking to your relationships.
Oh my gosh, I'm already seeing it. Like my partner, who is all about adventure and spontaneity, suddenly it all makes sense. It's not them trying to mess up my plans, it's just their need for novelty and new experiences.
Exactly. And once you understand that, you can start to navigate those differences with more empathy. Maybe you build in a little flexibility to your plans or find ways to inject some novelty into your routines.
So instead of clashing, we can actually support each other's motivators. I love that.
And it goes way beyond relationships, too. Think about your work environment. Imagine understanding why one colleague thrives in that constantly changing environment while another needs those clear structures and routines.
This is seriously eye-opening. It's like we've been given this tool to decode human behavior and build better connections both personally and professionally.
You got it. And the best part is that it lets us make more conscious choices, right? If you thrive on freedom and autonomy, you can find work or projects that offer those things. If recognition is huge for you, you can seek out that positive feedback in your relationships.
So it's less about trying to change who we are and more about creating an environment where we can really thrive.
Exactly. It's about designing a life that feels aligned with your true self. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. As you grow and learn, your understanding of these motivators will too. And you'll keep finding new ways to use this knowledge to build a more fulfilling life.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive into motivation, what is the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this?
If there's one thing I want you to remember, it's this. Embrace your unique mix of motivators. They're not flaws to fix. They're the keys to unlocking your potential and living a life that feels authentically you.
Such a powerful message. And listeners, we want to hear from you. What motivators really resonated with you? How do you see these playing out in your own life? Share your thoughts and keep the conversation going. Until next time, happy exploring.